Welcome to Spindle and Spoon Homestead, your place for simple living and hand spinning. Today I'm sharing a recipe for October pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. This is for a soft cake-like cookie. My kids said the texture is almost like a pancake. It's really soft, so if you're thinking of like a chewy chocolate chip cookie, it's not quite like that, but it is so delicious. So you can just use canned pumpkin in this recipe, but of course I like to use things from scratch. I use canned pumpkin sometimes, but for the first pumpkin recipe of the season, I wanted to try a real pumpkin. So this is just a pumpkin from the grocery store, but you can use honestly any kind of pumpkin that you can find. You could even use something like a butternut squash or an acorn squash. I would not use a spaghetti squash. I think they might be too stringy. And obviously things like yellow squash or zucchini, that's not quite the same thing. I don't think that would work well. But any kind of pumpkin or squash that has like this orange flesh will be perfect. So the first step is to cut it in half and scrape out all the seeds. Just like when you make a jack-o'-lantern. You can use a spoon to scrape the flesh clean. And don't waste those seeds. You can either roast them or feed them to your animals. They're really nutritious. Put on just a little bit of oil and rub it all over the flesh of the pumpkin. I used avocado oil, but any kind of oil will do. And you're going to put it upside down on a cookie sheet and roast it at 350 degrees for about 50 minutes, depending on the size. You want it to be super soft, so I'm piercing it with a butter knife and it goes right through. That means it's finished. Next step is to puree the pumpkin to get rid of any stringy texture. So you just scoop it out of the shell or the peel and puree it with a food processor. I really like my food processor and I will link it in the comments with an affiliate link. Things I like about it are that it's really big. I think it has a 14 cup capacity, which is huge. And it's also relatively quiet for a food processor, so I really like it. So this this cookie recipe is something I found or created in college. At my college, there was like a student not a cafeteria, but like a student building that had a bunch of little restaurants. Kind of like a food court, that's what I'm trying to say. It had a food court and it had a little like snack shop, I guess, and one of the snacks you could buy was these prepackaged gigantic soft pumpkin chocolate chip cookies, and they were so good. I loved them and my friends loved them. They were so huge. Like, I remember the nutrition facts were like this cookie is 3 servings, but of course we all just ate the whole cookie because it was so good. But anyway, in college I was like, I love these cookies, I gotta figure out how to make them. And so this recipe was born. If I remember right, I kind of was like looking around on Google and I found sort of some ideas, some base recipes, and just modified it a little bit. And another interesting thing about this recipe is that it's technically vegan, so if you need to make a vegan dessert for some reason, here you go. So you need to puree the pumpkin so it's nice and smooth like baby food. Again, you can use any kind of pumpkin, even the pumpkins that you buy for your fall decor, and then as long as they don't start rotting or something at the end of the season, you can cook those and eat them. Okay, for the recipe, you need 4 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, this recipe is really forgiving. It doesn't really matter how you mix these ingredients together. You just dump them in and blend them together. You need 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, and a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, and a half teaspoon of nutmeg. I don't usually measure it because I like the freshly grated nutmeg, and so I just grate it right into the bowl and just guesstimate. I am one of those people who thinks that October is the best month of the year. It's the month of my birthday, and it's the start of fall. I mean, not technically, but I love October. And there's Halloween. It's just the best. So you need 2 cups of pumpkin puree, and that's roughly 1 can of pumpkin. So you can just use a can and it should be fine. I've done it before. This recipe is really forgiving. You need 1 cup of oil. Any kind of liquid oil is fine. I used coconut oil and it was liquid. I think solid coconut oil might be okay, but you might want to soften it first. 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and I had forgotten to put the sugar in, but you should have put the sugar in, but we'll get to it. Like I said, this recipe is very forgiving. You want about 1 cup of chocolate chips, and that is about 1/2 of a package of chocolate chips, like the 12-ounce bags, half of that. I decided to use maple sugar for this, but white sugar is fine, brown sugar is delicious. You need 2 cups of sugar. And I also added about a tablespoon of molasses because, I mean, what could go wrong? So the consistency is very gloppy, a little sticky, gloppy batter-like substance. It's not like normal cookie dough. And I just use my ice cream scoop or cookie scoop to scoop out. It's probably like about a 1/4 cup and just blob it onto my silicone mats. They do tend to spread out a little bit, but they still keep their shape. Oh, and here's a tip. If you have extra pumpkin, just put it in an ice cube tray, freeze it, and then pop them out and put them in some kind of freezer container, like a freezer bag. And you can use these little pumpkin ice cubes in all kinds of things like smoothies or chili or other kinds of soups, and that way you don't waste any pumpkin. So here's the cookies. They spread out a little bit. They're super soft. They have a delicious pumpkin spice flavor with chocolate. My kids love them. They are a big hit. We will definitely be making these again this season. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Let me know if you try it, or let me know in the comments your favorite pumpkin spice recipe. Have a great October, everyone, and thanks for watching.